Hear me on the microphone. And hello. I think I got the right camera this time. Welcome. My name is Dr. Renee Ostertag. I am a physical therapist and a psychotherapist. And that makes me a nervous system ninja. And I am here today to help share everything I know for you to develop skills in becoming a ninja yourself. And I share everything I know about ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving that help promote your skills and ultimately developing mastery in your own nervous system ninja capacities, right? The ability to shift and change states from either body or mind or body. It's a two-way street. Through shifting your thinking, your feeling, your behaving, all these things can be learned and developed through skill acquisition. So can somebody give me a thumbs up if my microphone is working? I'd like to double check that, because if you're hearing me, awesome. Erica, I think you can hear me, I'm assuming. Thank you for your wisdom. I'm very grateful. Erica, I am also very grateful. I'm grateful that you're here, and I'm grateful for the 6 other people that are here and those that are going to come live and those that will be watching later. Today, I will be sharing with you what I've seen over 23 years in clinical practice about the 5 key ingredients to develop a healthy body-mind relationship. And my dog is chewing on something. If you can hear the noise, let me know and I will remove that from him. Otherwise, it's a practice for me to practice focus, because life is always making noise around us. Chris Spencer, it is a true delight to see you again here today. Erica, Chris, and whoever's here, I welcome your questions, your comments. Engagement conversations is a two-way street. So today you're going to learn about the 5 crucial ingredients to a healthy body-mind relationship. And if you stay and watch this, I guarantee you will receive some sort of an insight, new awareness, or an action that you can take to contribute, promote, and develop more health in your body-mind relationship. And health doesn't mean everything is picture perfect. Health doesn't mean everything's okay and we're fucking shitting unicorn fairy tale rainbow roses out our bottoms. Like, that's not what this is about. A healthy body-mind relationship is the ability to navigate the inevitable suck of life and to still acknowledge that suck in life exists, and so can good things. Haha. Eminent Fire Rising, good to see you. So I just want to say that everything I share in this YouTube live is informational and educational in nature. It is not medical advice or treatment, and it does not substitute consultation with a healthcare professional. So please, if you are feeling troubled or concerned about any symptoms that you're having, please seek professional support from whoever that is. And if you'd like it to be me, you certainly can go to my website and sign up for a free consult and see what offers I have there. Lots of things for you to promote your nervous system ninja mastery. Okay. David Ricco, I believe is how his name is pronounced. Steph Fiore, how to cure social anxiety. I will absolutely write that down and totally plug into that. So yes, thank you so much for that question, social anxiety. And I think you will find something, hopefully, in today's content in general, and I'll speak to that specifically. So the book, How to Be an Adult in Relationships by David Ricco. And I want to give him massive credit because he wrote this book for mindfulness in relationships, significant other, partnership, marriage, whatever you want to call it. And he talks about the 5 A's: attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowance. And I read this book quite a number of years ago, admittedly, not all of it. I do that often with books. I sort of start and I get what I get and then I leave the rest. But I really had this profound connection as a physical therapist and seeing so many people over the years, and a psychotherapist, like, wow, we're struggling as a whole, myself included, with how to be in a relationship that works for us between body and mind. And I'm of the opinion that that should actually be our primary relationship, our first relationship, the most important marriage or partnership that we have, because as we have good, solid, secure stability there, that's what we contribute to the world at large, including partners, including family, including coworkers, including random people at a party when you have social anxiety. The more securely attached within myself I am through body and mind, the more securely I can go throughout the world. And hear me, none of this is a character flaw or anything you're doing wrong or bad. I just think life is complicated. Our nervous system has 100 billion neurons with 100 trillion connections. We're a 100 trillion piece puzzle. And so it takes a minute. It takes a while to figure it out. And it is an ongoing process. I love and hate that I'm saying this. There is no destination. It truly is the journey. And there are parts of me that just call that fucking bullshit, because I like destinations. I like goals. I like getting somewhere. And I like getting rid of physical pain. I like getting rid of mental pain. And I do. And then the next one comes up, and then you do, and then the next one comes up. So it is, I think there's just some bitter truths. And maybe if I write a book, How to Be an Adult in Your Body Mind Relationship, I'd have 6 A's. And the first one is awareness. And I want to speak to that for a second, and then I'm going to dive into the 5 A's. For your body-mind relationship. Yes, eminent fire rising, always growing. Awareness. There are things in life that suck. And how to be an adult, let's start there. How to be an adult recognizes that there's fucking shit in life that sucks. Death, taxes, pain, suffering, the unknown, the unexpected. An adult really, in my opinion, gets that and is actively in a process of learning how to wire that into their nervous system in a way that occupies less circuits of threat and more circuits of safety, right? I just listed off a whole bunch of shitty suck: pain, death, suffering, the unknown, the unexpected. Most of us, when you hear those words, how does that live in your body? Think about that for a second. It's probably tense. It's probably tight. It's probably constricted. And there's probably not a lot of breath flowing through you. And so let's start there. How do you be an adult in the face of suck, in the face of perceived threat? Can I become aware of my body? And I don't care what it's doing. As long as it exists on some level, you're winning at life. I say that all the time. I don't care how you breathe. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to breathe. I'm firmly committed to the stance that there is no wrong way to breathe, because if you're breathing, you're winning at life. And when those sucky things come up, pain, death, suffering, struggle, the unexpected, the unknown, we tend to lock up into a freeze and we don't know it. And so I think the adult is open to discovering how do those difficult things live in my body, probably in a state of tension and stress, and that can perpetuate those and become like a beaver dam where everything gloms on around it and gets stuck. and builds up into this really difficult, perpetuating self-fulfilling prophecy, because the whole thing of what we resist persists. So David Ricco talks about 5 A's. I would talk about 6. First, awareness. Oh, I have a body. Yeah, right? Because there's so many things in life that are taking our attention, and the body usually isn't one of them, unless something's going wrong. So that leads us to the first A of attention. And I just want to pause. Let's check in. Let's give our body some attention. Just bring your attention to your seat and to your feet. And see, where is your breath? Again, I don't care what it's doing. I don't care if it's not happening. I don't care if it's shallow. If you're breathing, you're winning at life. And see if there's a way that your body wants to move. My body wants to sort of arch my back and open up my chest and to kind of feel the breath flowing through me. It feels good. Hasn't always felt that way, my friends. So attention. As a physical therapist, I've seen lots of people where their body is screaming and crying out for your attention in the form of pain. And I want to talk for a moment about pain, because pain is produced by the brain. I'm not saying it's in your head. It's very real. But ultimately, pain is this output of the brain because circuits are active, circuits are engaged. And what's fascinating about science is that it shows us that physical pain, emotional pain, and social pain run nearly identical networks in the brain. Somebody mentioned social anxiety. Those are really, really, really similar circuits to, say, neck pain. And so physical pain, we're all really aware of. Emotional pain, we know that too. We don't necessarily, or we do, talk about that as much, but it looks the same in the brain. And so when we're having emotional pain, whatever that is to you, despair, anger, rage, frustration, these more difficult emotions that our nervous system doesn't necessarily know how to metabolize. And so it can just hold on to it and get stuck, because it's just like, well, you don't necessarily know how to metabolize or process this. So I'm just going to hold it in your body until you're ready. And then the body's like, ugh, fuck this shit. Let's give them some pain to try and get them to pay attention. And then social pain, right? Loneliness, disconnection. All 3 of those circuits are nearly identical. And the thing that I find fascinating is there was a study where people were experiencing social pain, right? Isolation, disconnection, loneliness. And they were given a Tylenol and they felt better. So there's proof that, giving attention to the circuits of pain in the brain, which are ultimately governed through and by and with the perception of threat. So this idea of paying attention to your body, normally what I've seen, we don't pay attention to it. And why would we, right? Why fix it if it ain't broken? And if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Don't pay attention to it. And so we don't tend to pay attention to the body if nothing's wrong. And then some alarm starts ringing, some form of pain, physical, emotional, or social. And we start paying attention to it with very negative biases. And that sets us up to be constricted, tight, tense, threat. And so now the mind is paying attention to the body in a very negative way, which drives the body to continue to send negative thoughts back up to the brain. And then we get stuck in this feedback loop. And so I think there's value in just becoming aware of the kind of attention that we typically give to the body, which is negative. And this is not a character flaw. This is a natural feature, not a flaw. It's a feature of the human experience, as we have 50 million years of evolutionary wiring that suggests it is better to pay attention to the negative, way smarter from a survival standpoint to pay attention to that rustling bush and assume it's a lion, not a cute bunny rabbit, because the bunny rabbit stick-arounders died. So we're going to pay attention negatively to the body. And so just becoming aware of that and not ending there. Like, start paying attention to what's neutral about your body. What's not wrong about your body? Do you not have dental pain today? Way to go. That's exciting. Do you not have pain in your fourth pinky left side toe? That's awesome. Like, start paying attention to that. It's silly, but sometimes I make a little game of it. Like, what can I pay attention to that doesn't hurt? And I make it a game because I try to be really curious and silly and novel. Like, wow, that like second to last eyebrow over my left eye doesn't hurt. That's cool. And so now I'm starting to prime the pump for more neutral attention. I think that's a good place to start, because sometimes going to positive attention to the body is really difficult if we're in a loop of negative distress, pain, anxiety, self-loathing, etc. And so just starting with something neutral about the body can be really, really beautiful. And I'm going to pause here because Angry Peach had a great question, and then we'll get into the positive. Angry Peach, do you have an explanation for sudden spontaneous movements of the body? Yes, usually I meditate lying down and either my arms or legs or the base of my spine start moving randomly. I love this. That's beautiful. So Angry Peach, as I understand it, what you're experiencing is called a neurogenic tremor. There's a YouTube video on a polar bear experiencing a trauma response, and he's coming out of freeze. And the polar bear ends up okay. So I just want to start with the end in mind, that all is well with the polar bear. But if you look up that video, it's fascinating to watch this polar bear's body shake. And in that video, you see big movements. It sounds more like you have little movements, but there's anything in between, little or big. Another place to look more for those is called tension releasing exercises by David Ricco, TRE. And he talks about how, a system can heal. And in many ways, it is self-organizing. Meaning that bodies know how to heal if they are allowed the environment to do so. And so when a body shakes, when a muscle twitches, when there's a little bit of a jerk response during stillness, that's actually the body, very simply said, dumping off stress chemicals that have been accumulated from the day, week, month, life. When the body goes into a state of greater stillness or immobility, it's like it has a chance to regroup and settle in. And it's like, oh, all these stress chemicals that are still floating around in my body, they're stopping me from settling in. So let me get rid of them. And the way this works is the muscles, when you look at like a bicep or something, you can see it contract and relax, and it shrinks and then it gets bigger. And what's happening is the individual muscle fibers are contracting and relaxing like this through a whole bunch of chemical processes. Often in stress, fight, flight, freeze, chemicals, myosin will lock up and the muscle will create a little trigger point in there, and it lacks mobility, it lacks flexibility, it lacks the ability to unwind and contract again. And so what happens in this neurogenic tremor is there's a change in the chemicals in the area, and it jolts and releases. And so that is a beautiful way. And I would encourage you to celebrate that and stay curious about it and watch and see what else your body wants to release, as far as movements go, as far as sounds go. There was a really cool video, if you look up in YouTube, on TRE, tension releasing exercise, Navy SEAL. If you look that up, oh my gosh, I have so much respect for this guy. He was a Navy SEAL in some sort of explosive trauma, and he shared his story with engaging the tension releasing exercises. And so, yeah, attention, like boom, there we go, right into positive attention. Like instead of making it wrong or bad that your body's twitching or releasing, going like, whoa, how cool is that? Like my body's working on my behalf to try and help me to get to circuits of healing, to help me get to circuits of safety. I bet all of you have had this experience either yourself or in another person when you're like falling and drifting off to sleep, and then you like jolt yourself awake or your body twitches and shakes. You can see my dog, he does it a lot. That's that same mechanism. The body is unwinding stress chemicals that are stored in the muscles. So, Angry Peach, you have a nuclear bomb worth of stress. Amen, my sister. Mine still lives in my gut every day. I try to like detonate that shit. No pun intended. Oh my God. Okay. Attention. Do I recommend Erica, an author on chronic pain? I do. I was trained in Australia for my second master's degree. So I have a clinical doctorate in physical therapy and 2 master's degrees. And my specialty in that second master's degree was from the University of South Australia. And there, I'm looking over there because my book's right over there. And it's this gorgeous book by David Butler and Lorimer Moseley. And it's called Explain Pain. And I'm going to get it for you. This book changed my life. Professionally, it just 180 degrees, because it talked about how physical pain is an output of the brain, and it's this whole complicated experience in mind, body, environment, experiences, past and present. Pain's complicated. And so this book, Explain Pain, they now have a second edition. They have a second edition out. Did you like how I did that upside down at the start? I like that a lot, because that's what pain will do to you. It will turn you upside down. It will turn your world upside down. And it's a shit fucking terrible bag of dicks. And I'm so sorry for saying that out loud, and I'm not, because that is the experience people have with persistent pain. And I am absolutely, till the day I die, here to champion that it does not need to be the end of your story. And it can change. And what I also want to say, thank you for that little, there's another one that you can't see. Bercelli, T-R-E. Oh, I'm rhyming all over the place. So David Butler's, I think, on his way to retirement or already done, but he was my instructor in Australia. That book changed my life. They have a couple different iterations, and they also have something called the Protectometer. And this is a new one. OMG. Lorimer Moseley wrote this book with a guy named Daniel Harvey. There's like these amazing pictures inside. Maybe I'll do a live on that at some point in time. If you guys have any, you people have any requests for live, let me know. But this book was amazing. Pain and Perception, a closer look at why we hurt. And this whole idea about tissues and pain having a one-to-one relationship is scientifically bogus. It's very low. The relationship between structural physical damage and pain, that correlation, according to science, is very low. What is very high, according to science, is the amount of fear in a nervous system. Very directly, clearly links with the amount of pain one experiences. And so as fear goes up, pain goes up. As fear goes down, pain goes down. But you could have tissue damage. Pain could be way up here, or pain could be way down here, right? So this is a bit of a side note, but knowing how to pay attention to the body, I think understanding more of the body really helps promote a more neutral, positive kind of attention towards the body, as opposed to the negative type of attention. Yeah, Erica, let me know what you think about that and how you like. And Angry Peach, we talked a bit last week as well and said that I should book a free appointment with you. The thing is, yeah, still, if you totally book something, we can just hang out for 20 minutes and sit together. And I'm coming out with a course for like $35, hopefully by the end of the year. And that makes people get something really affordable that they can have to work on thinking, feeling, and behaving like a nervous system ninja. So, the 5 A's: attention. First one, what kind of attention are you giving to your body? Negative, which is the most common pattern, neutral, or positive. And we talked a little bit about neutral attention, like make a game of it. What doesn't hurt today? What isn't bad today? What isn't wrong today? And get as curious as you can, because fear and curiosity have an inverse relationship, right? So we talked about how fear and pain have a very strongly correlated relationship, but as curiosity goes up, fear goes down. And so the more you can get curious about what doesn't hurt, the more you start wiring those circuits in. And then as that gets easier and better for you, what you can start to do is promote a more positive type of attention for your body. And you may not be able to start with your body, and that's okay. Just this past weekend, I went to see Warren Miller. Now, for those of you that don't know Warren Miller, it's this movie about very high level athletes skiing and snowboarding, and it shows amazing footage. And you can watch any kind of high level physical performance or athleticism, or even somebody just walking down the freaking street, or even going to the dog park and watching these dogs play with mobility, but start to develop a positive kind of attention for a human body and what it can do. It is amazing. I sometimes go to like a professional sports game, and I don't, cool professional sports. What really gets me excited is what these bodies can do. And I was watching this snowboarder, and he's like way up in the air, 30 feet. He's grabbing his board and he's like arching way back. Like, I cannot get there. And it's just like, wow, look at what a body can do. And that starts to develop positive attention for a body. And then you can start to promote attention that's positive for your body. Like, this is not the stuff we're trained to do, but I just took a breath. And imagine if I couldn't. Like, that's a problem, right? So like developing a type of positive attention for that which you can do. And often a good way to do that is imagine, what if I couldn't? You know, I say this one a lot. I had a patient one time, his knee was so annoying to him. He's like, I just want to cut the fucking leg off. And it's like, yeah, that's awesome. You do that. And recognize that the consequence to that is now you have no leg. And that might be better for some people, but think about how hard that is to walk around. And so developing a type of more positive attention towards your body will help promote the health in the relationship between your mind and body. And now if you want to get really jazzy with it, you're going to do a 12-second soak and savor. And what's that? I want to tell you a little science first. It takes 3 seconds for fear to wire itself into your nervous system. It takes 3 seconds for an experience of fear to get encoded into your long-term memory. Guess how long it takes for something positive to wire itself in? I'm going to see if anybody has any thoughts on this. What I'm saying here is that fear, which is the driver of threat and pain circuits in a physical, emotional, and social way, Fear wires itself in really fast. Ooh, Angry Peach, life's working for you today. Good guess, 20 seconds. It's actually better than you thought. A positive experience takes 12 seconds to wire itself in. And so 12 is better than 20, and 12 is longer than 3. And so Rick Hansen wrote a book called Hardwiring Happiness. And he has a great line that our brains, and I would argue that our nervous systems, are like Velcro for the bad and Teflon for the good. And so we don't tend to pay attention to the good stuff. And we certainly don't pay attention to it for 12 seconds with exquisite attention. So if you want to wire in a more healthy mind-body relationship, you can spend 12 seconds at a time doing a soak and savor. And what that looks like is you find something in your world, or as you go about your day, something crosses your path that's either, neutral, but maybe even, dare I say, pleasant, dare I say, borderline intriguing or exquisitely curious, or it evokes a set of circuits in you that's like, what's that? And it could be something so little like the sun captured as it's falling on a leaf. It could be watching my dog play at the park. When you notice that with your attention, I want you to soak in that body experience and savor it for 12 seconds. I'm even salivating a little bit talking about it, which tells me I'm deeply affecting my autonomic nervous system. And you can do the same. And this is how you wire in more positive attention between mind and body, is 12 seconds at a time on something neutral or positive, and notice how it feels in your body. I feel like a gentle sort of stillness inside my chest. My legs feel like they can relax out of their usual flight, habitual pattern. And so just finding something neutral or positive, and it's just 12 seconds, which can seem like an eternity. But I did the math one time. If you do 63 12 seconds a day, that's 7 minutes total. I got to double check it. It's been a while since I thought about that math. But that's, over a 63-day period, it was 60 reps of 12 seconds, gets you to 7 minutes a day. And according to Caroline Leaf, who has a PhD in neuroscience and, rewiring your nervous system, I love that. That's hardcore science, right? It takes 7 minutes a day of focused attention to build a new neural network. And you can do it with a positive attention, 12 seconds at a time. 60 is a lot. Start with 2 and see how you go and build up from there. So that's the first A, attention. The next one is acceptance. Angry Peach. Too busy to think negatively to have 7 minutes of positive attention. I hear you, girl. And I'm assuming you're a girl, I also stand for the fact that we can rewire our system. And, 7 minutes a day, I tell you, it's a lot for some people. Start with 7 seconds and allow that to be enough, right? Because, yeah. I'm stuck in this. I'm aware of this, like, wow, sometimes I gotta hike what? I gotta do what? Like I'm standing at the base of Everest. Oh, that's so long. There's a reason why they have a base camp and a camp 1, 2, 3, 4. So accept that this is a process. Accept or don't. I don't care. But my advice to you is that from an expectation standpoint, this is a process. It's ongoing and it does take time. And celebrating the little wins along the way as you go is super helpful. So acceptance. I think that accepting what's happening in your mind, accepting what's happening in your body, is a big, big ask. And there's a lot of me that's not like going to do that because it's resisting it because it doesn't like it. And so I want to throw out the possibility that accepting what's happening doesn't mean you have to like it. And it doesn't mean you have to want it. I think accepting is just an acknowledgement of, okay, this is what is here. This is suck. This is struggle. I don't like this. And now what do I want to do with it and about it? And I think the other piece that helps with accepting is understanding the mechanisms at play, right? Understanding why my body's doing what it's doing, which is why something like explain pain and pain and perception are helpful. So understanding makes the fear less, makes the threat less because it makes more sense to me. And then I can get more on board of like, okay, I don't like this, I don't want it, but it's what's happening and it makes sense that it's happening. And I think there's a couple wonderful resources with pain, in particular, David Butler and Lorimer Moseley, and anything they have to say. You can check out the Neuro Orthopedic Institute. There's also a guy named Greg Lehman, Lehmen. He's out of Canada, and he's got some really great resources on pain. And then with the autonomic nervous system, and I think these are the two big things. If we can understand how they work more, we can understand our system and be more accepting of what it's doing and why. I think Deb Dana has some really wonderful resources on the autonomic nervous system called the rhythmofregulation.com. And then Irene Lyon also has some really wonderful resources on the autonomic nervous system and how to metabolize and process circuits of threat, right? Stored survival stress in the body. So that's acceptance. And somebody had mentioned social anxiety, which is like a fight or flight response at the idea of engaging or connecting with people. And I want to say that's actually totally understandable in my book. Solomia, I totally want to pronounce your name right. We will save this video so you can see it later. Accepting the idea of social anxiety, right? Social anxiety. Anxiety is a sympathetic arousal, right? So it's a fight or flight response when operating under circuits of threat. But that same sympathetic arousal when operating under the perception of safety is energy and enthusiasm and excitement. And that's why something can be terrifying and yet exciting at the same time. It's really all about our perception. So social anxiety is this heightened state of arousal at the idea of engaging with others socially. Now, we're coming out of a pandemic, and for 2 years, we haven't been engaging socially. And the idea of like use it or lose it, I think has some application here where we haven't been engaging with one another, and our circuits for that is a little bit rusty. And then when you go back to doing an activity that you haven't done for a while, it's going to feel scary. It's going to feel threatening. And so I think social anxiety has gone really way up for a lot of people with the pandemic, and maybe you had it before then too. And I would also argue that that's a reasonable, of course you have social anxiety stored in your system, because who hasn't been hurt by another human? Man, we're fucking monsters. And I include myself in that camp. We're also medicine. And medicine, when taken well, can really bring you back to life. Medicine, when taken unwell, can hurt you or kill you. So I think all humans are both medicine and monsters. And so, of course, we're going to have anxiety in our system at the idea of engaging with others. I can accept that that's a natural biological mechanism. And I can also accept that any state in the nervous system need not be permanent. And And so I like the idea of social anxiety, practicing being in the presence of other people, maybe at the grocery store, maybe at Starbucks, maybe where you don't know anybody and nobody's really watching you, and just practicing calming your nervous system down and moving through that fight or flight response, that anxiety response. And a quick way to do that, and that's cool because even just talking about that relaxes my system. Why do I know that? Because I just burped. What's burping got to do with anything? It's an accurate indicator of parasympathetic activity to counter sympathetic activity, right? Burping, rest and digest, opposes, right? The arousal response. So my body was like, yep, you're talking about a good thing here, Renee. So social anxiety, how do you accept the sympathetic arousal that's there? And accept that it need not be permanent. Go somewhere social that has really low stakes as far as how you engage with other people, and practice slow blinking. It's a really cool way to help lower the arousal of your nervous system. And so it's letting your foot off the gas and just letting your system start to experience more circuits of safety, lower arousal in the presence of other people. And so that's, accepting, it makes sense that the fight or flight, the sympathetic arousal, the anxiety is there. And I can accept that it can also end, and I can create an environment to optimize a moving through that sympathetic arousal. Angry Peach, your eye started to twitch. Yes, awesome, right? Your eye is relaxing. That's so cool, right? Remember the neurogenic tremors that we talked about. And Mary Saint Amand, I learned to purposely just shake my shoulders quickly and then let that jerky movement just flow instantaneously where it wants to. Indeed, it releases all stress. God, that's gorgeous, right? Like we can facilitate our nervous system to get out of that sympathetic arousal, that fight, flight, freeze, that high state. And we can get it to move more into relaxation. We can get it to move more into energy and enthusiasm. And I would say doing this in the context of other people will let you practice getting out of social anxiety and into social engagement. Because as you practice relaxing in the presence of other people, maybe you're watching them on TV, maybe you're thinking about them, maybe you're thinking about a party or a work meeting that you have coming up, or some holiday event. Practice shaking your body, practice slow blinking. And that will help prime or wire more circuits of safety in the context of social engagement. And this is leading me straight up to the third A of appreciation. I am appreciating this engagement. I am appreciating that your bodies are responding to what my body is saying. And my mind is clearly involved because it's the one telling my body what to do and receiving feedback from my body. And I'm appreciating the complexity of my system and how it can work together in a healthy marriage between mind and body, and how that affects you. To bring it all back to what I said at the start, like most important marriage is the one between mind and body, because that's how I contribute to all other relationships in the world. And I'm appreciating that your bodies, Angry Peach, Mary Saint, and everybody that's here, it's responding on some level to what I'm saying, whether you know it or not. And if you go back to that first A and start paying attention, you might notice something, and then you can accept that your body and mind are influenced by what's happening around you. And then you can appreciate that we can wire in more circuits of safety to yield more health in our mind and body, and appreciating the quickness with which my system is wired to keep me safe and alive when something happens that it perceives as bad or wrong. Like how fast that happens, like 3 seconds, whoa, bad, wrong, I got to move away from that. So just appreciating. There's a really wonderful line in this book, and I know that the non-conscious mind has 400 billion actions per second. in the non-conscious mind. And here in this book, they talk about the brain receives 11 million pieces of information from our senses every second. Every second, your brain is getting 11 million pieces of sensory data. That's a lot. So I can appreciate the like infinite possibilities available to me. And then that leads to the fourth A, which is affection. And this can be a big reach for people, especially if they're feeling fragile, made of glass, body's broken, nothing's working. Like, what? You want me to have affection for my body? Fuck it. Totally reasonable, totally get it. And that's why affection is the fourth step. So you want to work on the first three and build up those positive circuits first. And then having affection for your body. I just posted a video about how this holding position can yield and promote a positive effect on your vagus nerve. And this is something that you can see other people do on TV in real life when they really cherish that which they're holding, right? So I could be holding you right now, which I'm not because I'm here and you're there. But just imagine what that might feel like if there was a safe person in your world and they were holding you. That's a very endearing and an affectionate way to promote circuits, the energy of affection in your own mind and in your own body. And this idea of, I'm going to accept you and whatever's happening. We don't have to like this. We don't have to want it, but I can accept that it's here and it makes sense that it's here. You're protecting me from something that you perceive as negative or bad about life. And so this idea of promoting affection through touch is a good one. Sometimes I just like hug and squeeze myself because I love myself. And that sounds so cheesy, but it's true. And I do it with my dog, right? And so when I'm promoting affection in my system, I notice my body when I'm giving my dog affection, because that's a way for me to promote affection in my own mind-body relationship. And the other thing that I do is when I go to, say, a yoga class, or I go to walk the dog, and I, again, try and make a game out of it and get curious about it. What body part can I send affection to? And I have to think about the energy of affection often through a loved one first outside of me, because it kind of primes the pump. Sometimes it's hard to have affection for yourself. But when your body did something well, right? It didn't do something bad or wrong, or it did this wonderful thing, like let me walk around the neighborhood. Like, wow, where can I give affection to? How about the inner aspect of my left thigh? How about the right underside of my left medial malleolus, right? The inside of your ankle bone. Like, how can I send affection to my body? And how do you do that? Well, again, attention, like when you give someone else affection, what does that feel like in your body? And just as though you give another being affection, could you imagine sending that energy of affection to your own self? How cool is that? Talk about an awesome mind-body relationship. Think about a partnership, marriage, relationship you've had where they're affectionate with you and you liked it. Like, that feels good. Soak and savor that shit, man. 12 seconds, wire that in and encode it into your long-term memory. And you can literally wire in healthy mind-body circuits through affection. So talking to my body, I have a program called the Nervous System Ninja, and there's a woman that's in it right now. And I teach a skill called pulse checks, where you take a pulse check on your own nervous system. And this is a side note here, but Western medicine, I was trained to check your pulse and measure heart rate. Here's what's really cool about Eastern medicine. A well-trained acupuncturist, they can check your pulse and measure up to 28 different body systems. Like they can gather data on 28 different body systems through just checking your pulse. And so in the Nervous System Ninja, I talk about different ways you can check your own pulse in your nervous system. And when she watched that, she came back and said, it's just a way to pay attention to my body. Like, hi, body, I'm here. She has a really big past history of chronic pain and doesn't like feeling and being in her body. So she goes in her head and ignores and booms and busts and does all these things. And then the body gives her a big fuck you because you did too much. And then it anchors you down. And so she kind of has this relationship with the body where she like suppresses, avoids, ignores it, or totally dissociates and lives in her head. And this is a nice third option for her to start giving affection and just touching her body and talking to it and saying, hi, body. And so that's a pretty cool thing that she's doing and that we can all do. Angry Peach, great question. Can the body consider us as an enemy? Here's what I think about that. I think 1,000% yes and, right? I'm trained in improv and yes and is a big thing for us. So yes, I do think it can consider you an enemy because like we tend to live in this society where we're accepted based on performance. And so we're always going and we don't like to stop so much. And the body, I think a lot of the time is hurting just because it's trying to get us to stop, slow down, pay attention. And so I think it can be mad at you because it's like getting freaking dragged along and it's not getting its needs met for restoration. But here's the most beautiful thing I have to say about the body. And I've had a lot of conversations with people where I'm acting as a mediator between their mind and body. And we get into this conversation, transformative dialogue, and I use a lot of internal family systems as the framework for this. But like, how does your body feel towards you? I might get emotional here. I've never seen a more forgiving creature than the body because it wants to be on your side. It wants to be healthy. It wants to be well. It just often cannot get there because we're not letting it, not on purpose, but we're stuck in this mind-body feedback loop of threat circuits, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all the names. And those circuits do not allow the body to heal. And it really wants to heal. It does not want to be causing you pain. It does not want to be limiting from your life. It does not want to be isolating you and hurting you. But it has no other way to connect to you. It has no other way to talk to you. It doesn't know how to email or text. And so it's speaking a very primitive language. So I do think that it can, but I also think that it's the most forgiving creature I've ever known. And once mind and body start understanding the underlying positive intention of each of them and that what they're doing makes sense according to their wiring, just forgiveness happens really beautifully. Erica, great question. Do I have discounts on the Ninja program? It's right. Yes. Thank you. You're interested. Yes. Send me a message and we can talk about that. And at the end of the year, I'm having a basics, white belt basics course come out. That's the goal. Send me energy for that by the end of the year for just a really like $35 program. So that's coming out too. But Erica, send me a private message and we can chat about that. The fifth A. It's okay. A. Attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowance. I want to talk to you all about allowance. Thank you. Leo, thank you. I'm really glad you're here. 17 of you here, whoever's watching later. I would not be here if it wasn't for you. And they say a teacher is someone who's willing to learn in public. And I have learned everything from the people that I've been so privileged to work with. And I get emotional because you all make my life better. And I contribute to that as well. So it takes a village to raise a body-mind relationship. Allowance. Now, I want to tell you, when I was in college, I was an athlete and I was on the track team and I was a 400 hurdler and a heptathlete. So jack of all trades, did all the things. One day I'm double bounding over hurdles and I hear a pop and it was from my back and I had instant pain on the floor. It was a terrible disc rupture. Danielle, new here. Nice to catch you live. Nice to see you live. So I hurt my fucking back and it hurt. And you can hear it, how, it just still lives as a memory in me of like, gosh, that was such a challenging time in my life. And for 15 years, I struggled and suffered and would have these episodes and they would go down my leg and then my other leg. And then I started having bowel and bladder symptoms, which is typically considered emergency surgery. But I was a PT and I was pretty determined to be like, nah, I'm not interested in surgery. I'm going to see how I can ride this thing out. And I learned over the years about back pain and how it works and how the brain works in an experience of pain and how the mind works in an experience of pain and how my nervous system intervenes with these. And yes, it was 15 years of suck and struggle with this back pain and having to take time off work, which is ironic, right? The physical therapist that has back pain and she can't work, like that's terrible. And I remember a session with a patient within the last few months. And he has the same picture of back pain that I had, going down the leg, lumbar radiculopathy. And I was pulling a lot from my personal experience to relate and connect with him. And we ended up in this really cool conversation. And I said, do you know what? I haven't thought about my back pain in years. Why? Because I haven't had it. And I had to really go back and dig deep and think. And we often forget about pain that we have. Again, we're not going to pay attention if it's not hurting. And I think it's also an expression of our resiliency that we tend to forget about pain once it's done and gone and over with. And I think there's an opportunity there to celebrate. Hey, body, thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for letting me get back to running and hurdle drills or whatever it is you want to get back to doing. So we're in this conversation and I said, I can tell you exactly the last day that I had back pain. And it was about 6 years ago. And it was the funeral memorial of celebration of life for a guy named Father Thomas Keating. And I had my own business at the time, and I had a day of patients that I had to cut in half because I wanted to go to this celebration of life. And the day before, I had a back pain flare-up episode, and I was like, motherfucking, so annoyed. And I was like, well, I don't care, come hell or high water, I am going to that funeral. So I canceled all my patients. And I'm moving around like, a stiff person, like every movement is calculated. Because if you've had back pain, you know how gripping it can be. And I'm driving in the car and I'm breathing and I'm doing all the right things, right? Relaxing in the face of pain is always a good idea. And staying connected to your breath, because we tend to hold our breath. And so promoting circuits of breath can promote circuits of safety to help you navigate the wave of pain. And I remember sitting in the church. No, I was in the car on the way to the church. And I'm thinking to myself, what's really cool is I have back pain. It makes sense that I have it. I've been under a lot of stress. I don't like it. I don't want it, but it's here. And this was the key for me. It's not a threat. And I got to the place of allowing my back pain to be as it was with a few different conditions around that allowing is, yeah, I'm going to allow you to be here because you are here. So clearly you're taking up space in my consciousness. But the key for me in getting rid of the pain was allowing it, and it wasn't a threat, right? It made sense that the back pain was there. I didn't like it. I didn't want it. And I didn't force myself to say, oh, I have to like this. I have to want it. No, bullshit. You don't have to like or want pain, but you can accept that it's here and allow it to be there and see, okay, what is it that I can do from here with this? And I realized this is no longer a threat to me. And that was the last time I had back pain. And that's what I've been working on with this guy that has back pain going down his leg, is that he's petrified that anything is an indicator of, oh, my disc, which is very understandable. Of course he is. The mechanism of injury was very traumatic for him. But we're working on having that symptom be allowed there and not be a threat. And so that's what I think the 5th A is with the mind-body relationship, is allowing symptoms to be there, whether they're social anxiety, whether they're back pain, like letting them be there. Angry Peach, this sounds more like emotional work and acceptance. And I would say yes. And for me, I'm just going to speak for me, is it's also intellectual and cerebral, because if I can make sense of why things are here, if this is reasonable, if this makes sense, if I can connect to, there's an underlying positive intention, there's a purpose or a mechanism behind why this is here. I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to want it. But my subconscious operates, the body operates according to a totally different set of rules that reason cannot reason. And so for me, it was emotional work and acceptance, but it was also this massive, like, I need to understand intellectually why this is here and why it makes sense. And to have that happen and then to let it not be a threat anymore, that's what, for me, let the work of allowing. And then, you know, if somebody's really used to shitty circuits and shitty experience, allowing the possibility of positive to exist as well, I think that's a whole nother level of allowing. If we're not used to goodness, if we're not used to joy, if we're not used to peace, we have to sort of build up our tolerance for that kind of allowing. So thank you, David Ricco, for the framework of the 5 A's. I think the 6th A is awareness. I am going to pause for a second and see if anybody has any other thoughts or questions before we wind this round of live up today. I've had a really good time. Today's my 2nd live. I had my first one last week, which was really fun and engaging. And I liked the people that were here and the interactions that we had and the dialogue. And I welcome it. And I'm going to be out of town the next 2 Mondays. But then the plan is after that to keep doing more. And your thoughts, questions are inspiring for me to gather content. So thank you, Danielle. I love this information too. I'm glad you're here. And I appreciate you. And Solomija, I really want to pronounce your name. It is interesting. And they say the truth goes through 3 phases. At first, it's vehemently opposed. At 2nd phase, it is ridiculed. And at 3rd, it becomes self-evident. So wherever you're at, this is my experience of the truth from a 3-dimensional perspective, right? Physical, emotional, social, mind, body, mind, how they relate. The nervous system is sort of the thing that ties it all together. And if we can learn to become skilled in dancing through the different states of the nervous system, it can be a really joyful life experience. Not always pleasant, but Yes. Angry Peach. I can totally, sadly, truly, I think all of us can, but we don't know it. So the fact that you know it is huge. Perceiving positive things and changes as being unsafe, and therefore I sabotage myself. And I want to talk about that for a moment about how when we're used to circuits of safety, when we're used to circuits of threat, safety can feel like a threat. So we're used to things feeling fight, flight, freeze, not good, bad. And then that becomes chemically comfortable. And so it takes a minute to reacquire, to adjust, to develop a chemical palette for things that are good, for things that are comfortable, for things that are safe. And I wouldn't call that self-sabotage, even though the behavior can look like self-sabotage. I would actually experience that self-sabotage as a system desperately trying to keep you safe according to its perception of what that means and what you need. And chemical comfortability is a big deal. We can get really familiar with chemicals coursing through our system. And when those chemicals change, that could be a threat. Oh, God. So better go back to the chemicals that you know, even if it's shit. And so I don't call that self sabotage, even though I can understand that it shows up that way. To me, it makes biological sense that your system's trying to stay safe by staying chemically familiar. And so gradually dosing and exposing yourself to small bits of safety and goodness will start to let the chemicals shift in a subtle kind of way that's not so big and boom busty and threatening. Oh, Erica, yay! Thank you for being here on this live today. Thank you for your message through my website. I look forward to getting that. And I'm really glad it has been a useful perspective on chronic pain. I would agree. I, have a master's, 2 master's degrees and a doctorate in it, personal experience in it myself. So I'm really glad you're here. Caitlin, I love your content and appreciate your channel. Same. Thank you. Thank you. We discussed some of this in my equine sport therapy program on how to reestablish that head to heart connection. Yeah, that's beautiful. Equine, I haven't sat on a horse in a long time, but I do know there's so much value in that. And yeah, Western culture, we are dissociated from our bodies. And at the end of a session for human or horse, we're often tapping the cortices on our head. That's wonderful. Yeah. I have a colleague, Robin Gisbert. She's amazing. And she talks about how you can connect the right and left hemisphere by just sort of walking over and tapping, right? Because we have this corpus callosum that connects these 2 separate hemispheres in our head. And when we can walk on over, it's kind of a fun way to think about, I'm building circuits in my corpus callosum to have more connection between my right and left hemisphere. Okay, release this had, is this solely that comforting touch? You are also the engaged. Caitlin, it's both from what I'm understanding about your question. Comforting touch, right? Affection for oneself. You can touch your head. You can cross over. You can tap the different cortices on your head. All of that can be done with a spirit of appreciation and with a spirit of affection. And that brings in the intentionality of the what and the why you're doing what you're doing. And it very much engages the cranial nerves. So it's a both and to that question. And I don't have a ton of experience, Caitlin, with access consciousness. I know of practitioners that do it. I have experienced, I can't remember what I experienced once with a chiropractor, but running someone else's bars. I think that, again, if it works for you and it's not harmful, go do it. And just stay curious and run the experiment. I think there's a lot of factors as to why any given treatment will work for anybody. And I don't think there's a silver bullet for anybody. I don't think there's one solution for one problem. I think it's more like a cafeteria buffet. And when we can use our own curiosity, instinct, heart, intuition to discern what to take, when to take it, and how much to take it, that tends to yield, in my experience, the best way of promoting health between mind and body. So I'm going to call it a wrap. I have loved this time and experience with you today. To wrap it up, we talked about David Ricco's book, How to Be an Adult in Relationship, using the 5 A's to promote your body-mind healthy relationship. My name is Dr. Renee Ostertag. I'm a physical therapist and a psychotherapist, which makes me a nervous system ninja. And I love helping you learn skills to think, feel, and behave more like a nervous system ninja yourself. I will be here every Monday, except for the next 2 Mondays, I'm going to be out of the state and country. So I won't be doing lives then, but starting later in December, and then the plan right now is through next year to be doing lives every Monday. So go ahead and send me your questions, put questions in the comments. Dr. Dane is Scooter Lee's cousins. We love it. I love it. I look forward to seeing you again all in 3 weeks from now. Take care.